On a crisp October morning in 2027, at Fort Crestwood, a remote military base nestled in the rugged hills of Montana, Sarah Kane stepped onto the training field. The air was sharp, carrying the scent of pine and diesel. A grizzled sergeant, Mitchell, his face etched with disdain, blocked her path. "Lost your way, little sparrow," he sneered, his voice dripping with mockery. No rank, no name, just a taunt that cut through the morning chill. Sarah, her dark hair pulled into a tight bun, wore a faded training jacket that hung loose on her slight frame. Her pale face, free of any polish, held eyes that burned with quiet intensity. The other soldiers, a tight-knit crew from Delta Fong, smirked, expecting her to shrink. But when Mitchell lunged in a mock attack, Sarah didn't flinch. In one fluid motion, she sidestepped, twisted his arm, and forced him to his knees in under 3 seconds. The field fell silent, jaws dropping, boots shifting in the dirt. She didn't gloat, just brushed dust off her sleeve and waited, her gaze steady as steel. The Delta Fong unit, 250 men hardened by ego and sweat, watched as Mitchell, red-faced and clutching his wrist, struggled to stand. A cocky recruit, Jenkins, barely 21, tossed his rifle at her feet. "Pick it up, medic," he jeered, his voice loud enough to draw snickers. Another soldier, a burly lieutenant named Holt, chimed in. "Wrong place, sweetheart. Supply tents over there." The laughter spread, sharp and cruel. Sarah's fingers tightened briefly on her bag strap, then relaxed. "I'm here to train, not to play your games," she said, her voice low but piercing. She stepped over the rifle, deliberate, ignoring it entirely. Jenkins' grin faltered. Another soldier, Captain Reese, broad and brash, blocked her path. "You got clearance to be here, or you just wandered in?" he challenged. Sarah met his gaze. "I'm exactly where I belong," she replied, her tone calm but unshakable. Before Reese could retort, a whistle cut the air. The drill began a reflex test to gauge instincts. Mitchell, still smarting, circled her like a predator. "Let's see what you've got," he muttered, swinging an elbow at her shoulder. The crowd leaned in, expecting her to falter. Instead, Sarah caught his wrist, twisted, and dropped him to the dirt in seconds. "Permission to continue?" she asked, her voice clear, slicing through the stunned silence. The tension escalated when Colonel Vaughn, a towering man in his 50s, stormed across the field, his medals gleaming like his temper. "Who are you to touch my officer?" he roared, snatching her file from her hands. He scoffed at the Pentagon seal and tossed it into the dust. "I don't answer to myths." But Captain Ellis, a quiet veteran with graying temples, retrieved the file. His scanner blinked red, classified, linked to a failed Black Ops mission from 2020. Only one survivor, Viper 7. A ghost story among the brass. Vaughn laughed coldly, but the air shifted. In the mess hall later, whispers swirled. A private, Torres, leaned forward, his tattooed neck glinting. "She's a plant," he hissed, loud enough for her to hear. "Who'd you charm to get here?" Sarah set her tray down, her eyes locking onto his. "Say it again," she said, her voice ablade. Torres froze, his bravado crumbling. The next day, Vaughn confronted her again, his hand twitching as if to strike. "Leave my camp," he growled. The moment his fingers grazed her cheek, Sarah moved swift, precise, breaking his wrist with a sickening crack. The 250 soldiers froze, the air thick with dust and disbelief. Lieutenant Colonel Harper, head of strategy, pushed through, his face pale. "We thought you were dead," he whispered. Sarah nodded slightly. "I'm back because you let my unit burn." Her words landed like a grenade. At a briefing that night, Major Lawson, itching for a fight, mocked her presence. Sarah stood, pointed to a flaw in their defense plan, and said, "Fix this, or you're dead in 10 minutes." The room went quiet, pins scratching as officers took notes. In the auditorium, trainees challenged her. "Why salute an outsider?" one shouted. Sarah walked to the tactical board, chalk in hand. In 41 seconds, she mapped a defense against an enemy assault, leaving the room speechless. Harper stood, his voice trembling. She advised presidents. "She's no candidate." Outside, a soldier, Callahan, dared her to run the muddy obstacle course. Sarah cleared it in half the record time, leaving him speechless in the mire. In a 5-on-1 trial, She dropped 5 Delta Fong soldiers in 9 seconds, her movements a blur of precision. The camp whispered her code name, Viper 7. Sarah left Fort Crestwood quietly, her bag slung over her shoulder, her steps steady. A young private at the gate stammered, "What you did, it's why I joined." She paused, her voice soft. "Stay sharp." Days later, a man in a plain jacket arrived, his presence silencing the camp. He took a tarnished medal from Harper, engraved with a date from 2020, and left without a word. The camp restructured. Those who mocked Sarah were reassigned, their careers stalled. The truth caught up, relentless. Sarah drove away in a battered truck, an old country song humming softly. She didn't need to look back. Her proof was in the silence she left behind. What would you do if you were Sarah, facing a camp that doubted you? Would you fight back with words or fists, or walk away? Should she have stayed to lead, or was leaving her final power move? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button, and subscribe for more stories of grit and truth. Where are you watching from? Let's talk.